Got it.
Precisely.
Okay.
Precisely.
Now, this goes back to your discussion about free agency, and because I think this is another relevant piece of that. Okay, even though we haven't done this piece, and we're clear, we got to have an economic base as nationalists to produce something. Okay, that's one piece of it. Actually, I think that probably answers part of my question, because my question is black male ego. Matter of fact, I heard a sister. Gosh, I forget the sister's name, and she's obviously been out here doing this work for quite some time. Barbara Sizemore. I had never heard of her before, and
Uh-huh.
I was on YouTube, and I heard her saying something. She was giving us this speech, and she said she was talking about the mistakes that we've made, and one of the things she said was that the uh, uh, the black male ego has destroyed more nationalist institutions than almost anything she can think of. My question to you is, if we do have those financial economic base and we're able to give our people jobs and stuff like that, will that by itself, I don't think it will, but I'm asking you, will that in and of itself fix this problem we have with these clash of egos where one black man, instead of seeing another black man doing great and saying, I want to be part and I'll come, and if you want to lead, whoever's best suited to lead, you lead and I'll help and I'll do my part and I'll play my lane. Let's work together. It's more of, I've got to be the big guy. And if I'm not the big guy, not only will I try not to join with you, I will try to hurt what you're doing or backstab or tear you down because I don't want anybody to be further ahead than me or bigger than me or to be able to give me authority from that end. The free agency part. We all want to be independent because we don't want to come together, because if that guy's a better speaker than me, then I'm looked down upon. Or if I'm not given the orders, then I can't. Then I don't feel that there's value, even though I have this great stuff that I can do, but I got to be in charge. How do we address that aspect? Because I think it's very relevant to why we have so many free agents.
We need to understand what we're saying and why we're saying it when we make when we basically denigrate ego. I'm not a person who agrees with that general premise that somehow or other the problem is our egos. It is not our egos, but perhaps our inability or unwillingness to maintain our egos within proper bounds in order for us to be able to effectively interrelate with and interact with one another.
Okay.
In other words, there are times when we need to sublimate our egos to allow the situation that's in the best interest of the collective or the group to move forward, because someone else may have the better idea on that particular point. When we say that black guys have these ego issues, it is not that the black guys have egos, because we need those.
Yes.
You and I had a conversation the other day about that. If you recall, I used the example of what Jesse Jackson said in response to some newspaper reporter years ago, television reporter years ago, when he was running for the Democratic nomination, and the guy said derisively that he had to have some sort of massive ego to think that he could be he was qualified to hold down the most powerful position in the entire world. Not to mention the fact that white folks have held that position for how many decades and generations. But for a black man, it had to take some sort of massive ego. And Jesse's response was, he doesn't know of any instance in history where anybody accomplished great things while possessed of an ego deficit. So you have to have enough ego to believe that you can do the job or do the thing that needs to be done. So we should not denounce ego or the possession of ego. We should consider whether or not we are appropriately managing that part of our makeup, the ego part. For example, good brother, you and I are conducting an interview over War on Horizon Radio Network. You're interviewing, I'm responding to your question. You and I can't talk at the same time. One of us has to listen while the other speaks. So in effect, while you're listening to me, you're sublimating your voice. You're holding your voice back, allowing me to express using mine. When I finish expressing in response to your query, then you start to speak, and I am quiet and holding my voice in check while respecting your opportunity to speak. In the same way, we can deal with our egos. But we have not yet mastered the art and science of, first and foremost, recognizing, in fact, what the ego is. So when you have people who are condemning the ego itself, you're in effect condemning the person's personhood, because that is what they are, it's their ego. But that does not mean that the ego has to be a bad thing. What we need to do is do more thorough analysis of what it is that we really are intending to convey when we say certain things, so that we don't end up denouncing the very thing that we need to go to war. Do you think a person with a miniature ego or with a great, tremendous degree of lack of self-confidence, which is little ego, can stand in front of a group of people and represent them and lead them off to battle or off to war?
Be impossible.
They have to believe that they're capable of leading this charge. That's ego. So it is that we need to understand what it is that we're attempting to convey when we say these things, and don't do ourselves a disservice in the process of trying to and intending to do a service. That's why I made reference in this piece that we're quoting from tonight, and which is our text tonight, that I believe that most, if not all, African-centered people, racially conscious black folk, black nationalists and otherwise, are well-intentioned and sincere. But I also pointed out that with all the good intentions in the world and all the sincerity in the world, that we could, in fact, put those things together and $5, and we could go to Starbucks and get a cup of coffee. Unless and until we have the capacity and the will to do what is necessary to take us from where we are to where we need to go, or where we say we want to go, then we're not going to move forward at all. So it's not a problem that black men have egos. It's a problem that we sometimes have difficulty managing and putting our egos in check in order to achieve the greater good.
Okay, well, let me do this. I have a guest on the line I think definitely wants to get into this conversation. My brother, are you there?
Yes, sir, good brother. Brother DJ. Greetings, Baba Mafika. How you doing?
I'm doing quite well, brother. I used your name in vain, and I tipped the hand on your fish farm thing. I hope you don't mind.
No, I've been listening to the program since the beginning of it, and Brother Irritated Genie did not know my cell number because I'm actually calling in from the road. But it's been a very good discussion, very informative as always, Baba, when you come on. And my question in reference to free agency is, what role has the rhetoric that we tend to espouse as nationalists, what role has that played in hurting our cause? Because now, for all intents and purposes, we are known as a bunch of talkers and not doers. So what role has the rhetoric that we all tend to espouse from time to time played in hurting our efforts to really organize and galvanize our people?
You answered that question, brother, in the process of asking it. Our tendency towards rhetoric as opposed to substance and results has, in effect, undermined our movement, and to the extent that some say it's been destroyed completely, if it has been destroyed, it is our tendency towards rhetoric rather than action and substance and tangible results that has caused that. That, in fact, is what I would suggest that Sister Sizemore was alluding to when she attributed the problem to the black male ego. It's really our tendency to be egotistical in flaunting things, and not the least of which is our gift of gab. And God has blessed us, or whoever put us down here has blessed us with glib tongues and the ability to use words and captivating phrases. So we have used that rather than to motivate our people and produce tangible results. We've used that, in effect, to make ourselves feel good, and the preachers use it, of course, to get people to do what they want them to do, which is bring them the money kind of situation. But the rhetoric that we are accustomed to spouting instead of, or in the place of, doing things that need to be done is what has most severely undermined our struggle.